Crimson Rivers, unconvinced. James is not prepared for someone to be courageous enough to interrupt him and Regulus as they dance, so it takes him by surprise when he feels someone tap him on the shoulder. Regulus slowly raises his head, with murder in his eyes. Marlene seems unperturbed. Simmer down, Reginald. This won't take long. I need to borrow your boyfriend for a few minutes, and it'll be quick. I fucking hate dancing anyway. Well, aren't you in popular demand? Regulus mutters to James, scowling as he steps back. Oh, don't, James groans as Regulus swivels and marches off in a clear tiff, heading right for Sirius, who is gawking over at Marlene and James in disbelief. James heaves a sigh and looks at Marlene. Flatly, he says, Thanks for that. He's a fussy one, isn't he? Marlene asks, amused. She steps forward and awkwardly braces her hands on his shoulders, quite literally keeping them at arm's length. Very volatile, like his brother, James says dryly, then clears his throat and reaches out to carefully lay his hands on her hips. She glances at him, so he panics and slips his hands up higher, but her glare only becomes more pronounced, and she's strangling his shoulders now, so he snatches his hands away entirely. Sorry, I thought you wanted to dance. I don't want to, but I'd like to speak to you, and I can understand why you and the pocket-sized Sirius might want to stay on the dance floor. Marlene heaves a sigh and glances down at his hands. Go ahead, put them back, it's fine. James pauses. Would you rather I hold your shoulders? We can swap if you want. Marlene blinks. Actually, yes, less invasive that way. Sure, James says simply. Because he gets what she means, he thinks. They swap quickly, with his hands resting on her shoulders as she settles hers on his waist. They're not close, and it's a bit amusing because she's shorter than him, but it puts her at ease. Also, pocket-sized Sirius? He's like an inch shorter than him. Yeah, but I bet Sirius never lets him forget it, so I can't either, in solidarity, Marlene muses. Besides, I bet I could break him like a twig, easily. No, James replies slowly. I mean, no offense, but it definitely wouldn't be easy. Marlene clicks her tongue. You poor thing, you're hopeless. I could break him if I wanted to. It's honestly sort of funny, since it doesn't look like it would be simple to do, because he's always glaring at things. Yeah, he's cute, James murmurs, lips curling up fondly. Then he frowns. He does actually have muscles, and he's stronger than he looks. No, I know that. I know better than most that looks can be deceiving, and I did see him pick you up once when you were passed out and carry you up an incline, Marlene admits. James opens his mouth, closes it, then says, He did that? Wait, when was this? In the arena? I know, but I have no memory of that. Yeah, because you were passed out, Marlene rolls her eyes at him. It was after that whole mess with Mulciber. You weren't doing so well, so Regulus scooped you up. How exactly do you think you got back to the cave? I never thought about it, James admits quietly. Marlene nods. Suppose that's fair. It was a rough one. Your games, I mean. Definitely one of the most brutal, I'd say. They'll be talking about it for a long time. I wish they wouldn't, James confesses. I understand, Marlene informs him. And he knows she does. Of course she does. She's a victor too. Look, I wanted to tell you that it meant a lot, what you said about Vanity and Hodge on the tour. Marlene, James rasps, a lump forming in his throat instantly. No, listen. Marlene holds his gaze, her eyes bright and fierce. It was a bit of a mess, yeah, but it was real. It was important, because you were right, and I'm grateful you had the guts to say it. Too many people have gone too long not saying it, James. And you did the first chance you got. It was all I could do, and it still wasn't enough, James whispers. They deserved better. It's not your fault that they didn't get it, Marlene tells him simply, and it feels like being absolved, just a little. A simple forgiveness that slices through weight he didn't even know was there, allowing it to slough off his back until he's almost unbalanced from feeling lighter. Everything has been heavy for so long, but she was their mentor, trying to help them survive, and she doesn't blame him for the fact that they didn't. He can breathe just a little easier. Thank you, James whispers, blinking fast and hard. I really appreciate you saying that, especially because I mean, I know you don't like me very much. It's not that I don't like you, James. I do, actually. It's just that Marlene sighs, then gives him a tight smile. I'm still learning how to be gentle again. For now, it's still a bit difficult, so I'm kind of shit at the worst of times, on top of being a useless mentor with a drinking problem on the horizon. And don't even get me started on my love life, or how fucking complicated and confusing it is right now. Because I'm not joking, I could prattle on complaining for hours. James blinks. Oh, well, you can if you like. If you have some things to get off your chest, I mean. Right, so your stylist? Marlene asks, settling in as they continue to sway. The one who looks like a fucking goddess? Yeah, so get this. She says we're friends. Sirius does his absolute best to shield Regulus from the worst of the attention he receives when he's away from James's side, but it's fucking difficult, honestly. The Hallows are a force to be reckoned with when they get together like this, and Regulus is sadly getting the brunt of it at the moment. They're all drawn in, curious and eager and demanding. People ask about James, commenting on their relationship, giving unsolicited advice and praise. Most of the people just like to hear themselves talk, so Regulus can usually just nod and along, and that seems to satisfy them enough. He should be smiling and laughing, but he honestly struggles with it. Sirius can tell, so Sirius does it for him, smiling when they smile, forcing laughter when they do, mirroring them because really that's all they want. He's pretty sure it works, for the most part. Some people, he thinks, can tell that Regulus hates them, but they seem to talk themselves out of that knowledge for their own comfort. In the end, Sirius saves Regulus from most of it in the only way he knows how, by ushering him off to dance with one of the more well-meaning sponsors. A shy one, really. Sirius doesn't have many favorites, but Huey Rutledge is one of them. He's a bleeding heart, quite frankly, and, coincidentally, the sponsor with the least amount of money. He generally can only afford 1 or 2 donations a year, and he's never once used them on Death Eaters, always going for the underdogs in the arena. He's the one who donated to Frank to give Irene hot soup that everyone in the cave could split to warm up. Regulus doesn't look too pleased to be going off dancing with a total stranger, but he does look relieved not to be overwhelmed by everyone else at once, and it's clear that he trusts Sirius's judgment on this, because he goes without protest. Sirius, on the other hand, has work to do. Seeing that James is safely with Marlene, Regulus is safely within range of James and Marlene, and Pandora is safely with Emmeline, Sirius locates his target across the room, who Pandora pointed out to him earlier, and heads right over with a beaming smile. He catches the hand of the next head game maker and brings it up to his lips in a quick, brushing kiss while she's in the midst of turning around. Miss McGonagall, Sirius greets warmly, still cradling her hand while peering over it through his eyelashes, coquettish. I don't believe we've had the pleasure of meeting yet. McGonagall is an older woman, graying hair twisted artfully from her face, wearing a vintage A-line dress. Sirius can't stop himself from tracing the tattoos on her arms, visible through the sheer style sleeves of her dress, traveling as far as he can see from her shoulders all the way down to her wrists. Most of them are aged, like she got them when she was young, but not all. There are a few that suggest she's still getting tattoos to this day. It's more common in the Hallow because those in the district have to do it themselves, and they don't have access to good enough medical treatment to fix it if something goes wrong. Not that people have never done it in the district, but it is rarer, and it's never something like this. 1 or 2 tattoos, maybe, but whole sleeves? No, that's definitely more of a Hallow thing. McGonagall is beautiful, in an intimidating way, with sharp eyes and a straight back, muscular and seemingly unimpressed with everyone around her. Even Sirius doesn't manage much with his usually effective grin. She's still just looking at him like she wouldn't bother to spit on him if he was on fire. Sirius is delighted. It's a nice change of pace from the usual Hallow, and he does love a challenge. No, I don't believe we have, McGonagall replies, slipping her hand out of his as she faces him fully, one eyebrow sweeping up. Nonetheless, your reputation precedes you, Mr. Black. Well, you can't believe everything you hear. Some things it's best to learn for yourself, Sirius tells her, holding her gaze. It's always worth it to check firsthand, I say. The very corner of McGonagall's mouth twitches ever so faintly, like she's amused, which is not the usual response he gets to his flirting. Most people, of all ages, are at least helplessly intrigued, which makes Sirius the one who's helplessly intrigued for once. He does love it when someone manages to surprise him. Unfortunately, your reputation holds none of my interest, so I'd say it's not worth my time at all, McGonagall informs him, completely ruthless about it, and oh, Sirius does like her. He doesn't want to, because in 6 months she's going to be the one behind the games, behind the death, behind the torment. Still, he can't help it, because he's never, not once, had a hallow blatantly and bluntly not want something from him. Never one to back down, Sirius grins wider and raises his eyebrows at her, swallowing his amusement and delight to say instead, "So you don't want to find out if my reputation for being the best dancer in this room is true, Miss McGonagall?" McGonagall blinks slowly. Sirius has to fight rising laughter when some sort of light of understanding visibly goes off in her eyes, followed by another twitch of her mouth and the slightest tilt to her head, a tiny motion that admits defeat and prompts respect, an awareness that she's been bested. Because, see, she was assuming he was insinuating something sexual, and, okay, that is what he was doing, to be fair, though he wouldn't have followed through, of course, because he never does, or has to, but he countered that effortlessly. Him being the hallow heartthrob, beloved and desired by all, is something that is known, but not discussed. Or, well, he's sure people talk about it when he's not around, but to do it right to his face is something else entirely, which backs McGonagall into a corner when she either has to admit defeat or admit that she expected him to entice her with sexual favors. Most people wouldn't be brave or shameless enough to do that, but Sirius is learning very quickly that McGonagall is not like most people, certainly not like most hallows. I've no interest in whatever sexual advances you're rumored to pass around like candy, McGonagall clarifies, even while she holds out her hand, but I won't say no to a dance. Sirius laughs. He can't help it. With a bright burst of laughter, he reaches out to cup her hand delicately in his own, held aloft as he leads her to the dance floor. Good to know. Come along then. Minerva, wasn't it? Miss McGonagall will do, McGonagall declares. Of course, Miss McGonagall. Feel free to call me Sirius if you like, Sirius muses, cupping her waist politely and promptly tugging her into slow, sweeping circles. Distinguished and fluid, they match the music, and she never fails to keep up, just as effortless as he is. He makes a mental note to address her respectfully as she's requested, unwilling to offend her or displease her when she will one day soon hold the lives of his future tributes in her hands. Having her call him by his name suggests familiarity, so he can only hope she will. The thing is, Sirius knows how to do this, how to charm the hallows. It's his thing. Most of them are lifeless, brainless puppets he can maneuver at will, but there are the occasional few that take a bit more effort. There's always an angle, though, and he intends to find hers. It's a good turnout, McGonagall comments, as she flicks her gaze around those that are dancing near them. They sweep past James and Marlene. James lifts his hand to smile and wave at Sirius, like an excited puppy, as he goes by, which makes Sirius grin back against his will, while Marlene doesn't even stutter in what seems to be a long-winded rant about the implications of a ring as a gift, and McGonagall's gaze lingers on James for a moment until they twist away. It's a shame Horace Slughorn isn't here to enjoy the fruits of his labor. Oh, I'm sure he would have loved nothing more, Sirius muses, flicking his gaze towards hers. She's already looking back, her expression neutral. He wonders what she knows, because he has his suspicions as to why Slughorn isn't present. He's quite sure the man is dead, and no part of Sirius regrets his part in that possibility. Riddle likely executed him for allowing James and Regulus to win, and Sirius is the one who planted that idea in his head. He feels no remorse for it. It was quite a valiant thing to do, allowing 2 victors, McGonagall says. I must admit, in my time of knowing Horace, he never struck me as a very valiant man. No, I'd say he wasn't, Sirius agrees, never breaking his gaze from hers, because he thinks, well, somehow he's almost sure that she knows it was him. Maybe he needed someone more valiant to guide him. Maybe so, McGonagall murmurs. And what about you, Miss McGonagall? Sirius asks, tilting his head curiously. Would you consider yourself valiant? I would, McGonagall says simply. Then she smiles at him, small and secretive. But I'm not so easily guided. Yes, well, I'm sure Horace Slughorn thought the same, Sirius says softly, letting the implications of that, the weight of an unspoken threat, wrap around his words and slip like molten silver off his tongue. If he cannot enchant her, perhaps all that is left to do is intimidate her. And where did that get him? No one knows. McGonagall never loses that tiny smile that lives in the lovely little wrinkles at the corner of her mouth, and Sirius has no idea what to make of it. What I do know is that Horace Slughorn was a fool, Mr. Black, and I am not. So, as it turns out, Minerva McGonagall is not so easily intimidated, and the mystery of what angle it will take to get through to her isn't simply found. Who she is, what she wants, and how she'll be as a head game maker remains unknown. But Sirius isn't deterred. Though she allows no familiarity between them, he intends to keep trying. She's the first Hallow who has ever posed a true challenge, and maybe it's foolish of him, but he's looking forward to it. Huey Rutledge is a quiet, bashful man who blushes with his entire face every time Regulus looks at him, stuttering and tripping over his words every time he attempts to talk, going wide-eyed and focused every time Regulus speaks and responds, which isn't often and usually happens monosyllabically. He's a little taller than Regulus, broad-shouldered and handsome enough with curly blonde hair, pale green eyes, and very deep dimples in his cheeks. While he's polite and seems to have tact and simple human decency that most other Hallows lack, especially sponsors, Regulus has noticed, what Regulus likes most about him is that he seems to have no interest in talking about Regulus's games or Regulus's relationship with James. No, his interest seems to lie in Regulus himself, like he's trying to get to know him as a person, not as a victor or a character in an idolized love story. Regulus usually hates talking about himself, but honestly, he appreciates it more now. So, it's just writing? Huey asks slowly, cautious, like he's doing his best not to offend. Can you draw too? No, Regulus admits. It's just writing. Huey nods. Any particular form? Poetry? Fiction? Poetry, usually, Regulus murmurs. Sometimes just journal entries, the occasional to-do list. You like organizing your thoughts, Huey says. Regulus pauses, then nods tentatively. It's easier to get what's in my head on paper than out of my mouth, most of the time. Yeah, I get that, Huey tells him. I'm a musician, but not a singer. I can compose and play what I'm feeling, but the idea of putting it into words and singing it is unfathomable to me, honestly. People just do that. I have no idea how. What do you play? Piano, guitar, and violin mostly. I'm alright with a flute, or I was when I was a child, but I haven't picked one up in years. Oh, and the kazoo. I'm not half bad on the kazoo. Is that an actual instrument? Regulus asks. Huey cracks a weak smile, flashing dimples. Technically, yes. Mostly a comedy instrument, but you'd be surprised how well it can round out a song if you add it in. But for my peace of mind, I take it very seriously, so I don't feel like an idiot. My brother had a kazoo once, Regulus says quietly, lips curling up helplessly as he remembers it. He built it when he was 9. He mostly just yelled into it, and didn't even have the sense to feel like an idiot for it at all. Yeah, older brothers are good for things like that, Huey tells him wryly, chuckling. I have one of those, too. An older brother, I mean. Louis never takes himself seriously either. Louis and Sirius would get on then. Probably, if they ever met. He isn't into things like this. Louis, I mean. So it falls onto me to handle it. Falls onto you, Regulus repeats, being a sponsor. Yes, Huey mumbles. Our parents were, so when they passed, the opening remained for us to step in. Louis didn't think there was a point. Rutledges aren't exactly high rollers, you understand, but our parents thought every little bit we could give was important. It's rarely enough to truly help anyone, to save them, but if we can at least make them a little more comfortable, we should. Doesn't it upset you? Regulus asks carefully, holding his gaze, and Huey immediately turns red under his scrutiny. He's holding on to Regulus so light, barely touching him at all, but he looks like he wants to come closer. Huey cuts himself off, swallowing. I don't know. I think it used to, but then, I used to feel like Louis does about it. But my first year as a sponsor, I got to help send someone water when they were in pain, and they were so relieved. Even though they didn't live, I was able to offer them that comfort, and it felt like I had to do it, because if I didn't, who would? Do you want to know a secret, Huey? Regulus murmurs. He tugs Huey a little closer, hearing his breath hitch as Regulus leans in to whisper in his ear. If you didn't, it wouldn't matter. There is no comfort in the arena. When Regulus pulls back, Huey is pale. He can't seem to figure out how to respond to that, and Regulus gets a sense of vindictive amusement in watching his worldview shift all at once. It feels good, honestly, even though it's cruel. There are certainly worse sponsors, and Huey clearly has good intentions in a way so few hallows do, but he's blinded by his own contributions to even question the system behind it all. He should question it. Regulus hopes he does. Regulus hopes that he thinks about it, thinks about all the people he felt the need to help, all the people he wouldn't have to help if only the arena didn't exist at all. Regulus hopes it keeps him awake at night. It's unfair, really, because what can Huey do? Even if he's no longer blind to what's actually wrong, it's not like he can actually do anything about it. But, misery loves company, and Regulus never sleeps peacefully anymore. There's a loud clearing of a throat that causes Regulus and Huey to snatch their gazes from one another and look to the side to see James, who has his lips pressed into a thin line. Huey literally jumps in place and takes a frantic step back, inviting space between him and Regulus again, no longer pale as his entire face turns red so brightly that it looks painful. You've accosted my dance partner long enough. I'll be taking him back now, James says, his voice clipped. He gives Huey one last hard look, then quite literally steps right in between him and Regulus to snake an arm around Regulus's waist before promptly sweeping him away. Poor Huey is having a really bad night, is all Regulus can think to say, his lips twitching. Oh yes, poor Huey, James mutters as he swivels them further away, only slowing them to a casual swaying motion when Regulus can't crane his head and spot Huey again at all. He tries, and James audibly grinds his teeth. Now who's jealous? Regulus asks as he slides his arms around James's shoulders and helplessly melts into him. Oh, he's so warm, so very terribly warm. He's also achingly beautiful. Dorcas is a terror, frankly. She has him in a soft, plum shirt that hugs his shoulders and practically strangles his arms high up on the muscle, except the fabric moves fluidly with its every motion. It dips down a bit at the collar, showing the obscene hollow of his throat and a peak of each collarbone. Between that, the charcoal trousers and smart shoes, looking at him makes Regulus's mouth water. He had the audacity to say James looked nice. Nice doesn't even begin to cover it, especially when he looks happy. James does not look happy now, however. His gaze is sharp. I looked over, and you were talking to him, and then you were whispering in his ear like you were telling him a fucking secret, or... I was, Regulus admits. You were, James repeats, his voice flat. Regulus arches an eyebrow. Yes, so? So you don't like people enough to trade secrets, James grits out. But what, you like him? James. What? Don't be stupid, Regulus says. James scowls. You make me stupid, and, oh, he obviously likes you. Wouldn't even look me in the eye, the fucking... James, Regulus repeats, stifling rising laughter. I'll kill him. I do that now. Kill people. It's something I've done, and am apparently willing to do that again, as it turns out, James announces. Did he force you to dance with him? You could have come to me. Why didn't you come to me? If he did anything you didn't like, I mean it, I'll literally kill. Stop it, idiot, Regulus says, huffing out a quiet laugh as he shakes his head. James still looks quite grumpy about the whole thing, but he's mostly just pouting now. It makes Regulus want to coo at him, though he refrains, because he'd die of embarrassment if he gave in to the urge. You were busy with Marlene, remember? Sirius sent me off with Huey to, I'm assuming, get me away from the crowd of vultures that were surrounding me at all sides. Huey's not so bad, really. A bit misguided, but he has good intentions. He has intentions to get in your fucking pants, James declares sharply. Regulus rolls his eyes, and James releases a huff. No, I'm not joking. It was all over him. Was it? Yes, I recognize it, because I, too, have the intentions to get in your pants. Not just that, obviously, but that's besides the point. The point is, I could sense it. Regulus sighs in exasperation. And did you stop to think about the fact that I wouldn't pander to his intentions? Yeah, that was before you started whispering secrets in his ear, James mumbles. You never whisper secrets in my ear. Yes, I can see how this is distressing for you, as a man I've actually wanted to let into my pants before, Regulus says dryly. Sure, but now I'm sad about it, so it doesn't even count, James replies. Retroactive sadness aside, I remember it well enough to know it absolutely counts, Regulus muses, arching an eyebrow at James, who looks torn between still being agitated or giving in to his focus on this topic. He's easily distracted by things that interest him, what Regulus likes to think of as shiny topics. Things that James fixates on the moment they're brought up, without fail. Sex, Regulus, and sex with Regulus are very shiny topics for him, Regulus has noticed. Plus, he can't always do two things at once, especially when they're contradictory things, like being agitated or being delighted. I don't want to talk about Huey anymore. Let's never mention Huey again, James announces, predictably. He tugs Regulus a little closer, scanning his face, lips parted. I'm forgetting about my boundaries again. No, none of that, Regulus reprimands. It's good for you to have them, honestly, especially if we're going to be having tea. Do you still want to do that? James's face softens. Yeah, of course. What do you think, I changed my mind in the last 30 minutes? No, Regulus doesn't finish, clearing his throat and looking away instead. He doesn't want to be the person who needs reassurance, but there's always this horrible, creeping doubt crawling up from within the depths of him, clawing its way up no matter how many times he shoves it down. He never feels sure of anything, and he doesn't think that's a result of the arena. Maybe the arena made it worse, but it's something that has always existed within him for as long as he can recall. I like your tea, James offers. Maybe I'm biased, but it tastes better than anyone else's. What do you do to it? Regulus hums and lightly says, I spit in it. Without missing a beat, James replies, that explains it. Helplessly, Regulus's shoulders start shaking as he folds forward into James and muffles his laughter as much as he can. He can feel the gravelly baritone of James's laughter vibrating against his chest, deep and lovely. Would you... Regulus chokes on another relentless giggle, gasping a little. Wait, would you actually drink my tea if I spit in it, James? Love, I would let you spit directly into my mouth, James announces, with absolutely no shame in his tone whatsoever. Oh, for fuck's... Regulus doesn't even get to finish before he dissolves into laughter all over again. Just letting it happen at this point. Unable to stop it. James is so funny. Regulus hates it, has always hated it, and doesn't hate it at all. James is still laughing, quiet and light, when he protests. Is there a reason I shouldn't? We've kissed before, many times. You've literally had your tongue in my mouth. Technically, we've already swapped spit, if you think about it. So, if you ever get the urge to cut out the middleman... Stop it, shut up, stop, Regulus wheezes, burying his face into James's shoulder and clinging to him, stomach hurting from the laughter that won't quit. Just shut up and dance with me. Yeah, all right, James says softly, sweeping his hand up and down Regulus's back, holding him close as they sway. And that's all they do, for a while. It's so fucking good. It has no business being as good as it is, honestly. Regulus doesn't like the feeling of hands on him, but James... Well, maybe it shouldn't surprise him that James is turning out to be his exception. In the beginning, right after the arena, it was unbearable most of the time, but Regulus is starting to hope that it's getting easier, getting better if it can. It's different at night, when he's actively trying to rest, and he can't explain why. For some reason, when he knows he's trying to sleep, being next to someone, feeling them, is the only thing that helps. But when he's awake, it's not the same. He doesn't know what that says about him, that he can only accept comfort when he knows that he'll be oblivious to it. But this past week has shown him that maybe, just maybe, it's something that will pass. Maybe it is passing already. It feels so good just to have James close, even when he's not about to fall asleep. There's no part of Regulus that wants to step away and shrink into himself. He wants to stay, just like this, forever. He thinks that's a good sign. It is, right? He wants it to be. Still, Regulus has no earthly idea how he'd ever offer James sex. Not that he thinks that's all James wants, really. He's quite sure that James would never have sex with him if that's what Regulus wanted, and he wouldn't even be upset about it, because of course he wouldn't. That being acknowledged, it is something that Regulus wants to give him, and wants to let himself have, at least someday. One of the main issues is that Regulus can't fathom letting James see his scars. He hasn't seen them all. No one has except for Barty, and even Barty hadn't been able to stop himself from sucking in a sharp breath of shock when he was confronted with all of them. He got over it quickly and got used to them, continuing on like they weren't even there, which is why Regulus let him see them in the first place, because he knows he can count on Barty to do whatever Regulus expects him to. He's consistent, always. The most consistent part of Regulus's life. But James? Well, it's different for James, isn't it? He's closer to it, for one thing. Regulus is terrified that James will see his scars and either see him differently, or see him and blame himself, or just see him and be taken right back to the arena, or maybe a mixture of all of that. Regulus can barely stand to see himself most days. He doesn't want to burden James with that. James makes a quiet sound of displeasure, suddenly, and Regulus's eyes immediately snap open. He's not sure if he'll ever lose the urge to eradicate anything and everything that could ever make James unhappy. He thinks he would bleed the world dry if it meant James was never sad again. "What's wrong?" Regulus murmurs. "My leg," James mumbles. I've been standing and dancing too long. Didn't bring my cane." "Do you need to sit down?" Regulus asks, pulling back. "We can grab something to eat, take a break. The night's almost over now, James." James smiles at him. "Yeah, thanks." So they thread their hands together and go find a table to sit down at. Regulus makes James sit there and save a seat, then goes to make them small plates, dodging people as much as he's able. Marlene helps at one point, cutting someone off to get to their drink table. Sirius is still dancing, and Frank is doing the same, it seems. When Regulus heads back to the table, he locates Emmeline and Pandora, who are filling chairs around James so that other Hallows can't. Regulus is grateful, honestly. He sits next to James and listens to everyone chatter around him, watching James brighten around people he actually appreciates spending time with. A few Hallows do stop by to talk to him and Regulus, but James handles most of that, which is probably for the best. It's really not Regulus's strong suit. He does feel bad that he's not helping James more, but to his credit, he tries his best. It's just that his best is never really good enough. He's used to that by now. They've just finished eating when the music cuts out, making people dancing stop and turn to the balcony on the far side of the room, above everyone else. Riddle is there, gently clinking a spoon to the side of a wineglass. Regulus feels his heart pick up in immediate fear. Sirius told him this would happen, that Riddle would step out at some point in the night and give a speech for the victor, just as he does every year, except this year it's 2. It's for show, of course, so it goes exactly as Sirius said it would. Empty words and lifeless celebrations. Hollow. Riddle is the most hollow person Regulus has ever seen. By the end, Riddle lifts his glass to James and Regulus in a toast, demanding the whole room to turn and show their signs of respect, and they all do. But Regulus is looking right at Riddle, his heart lodged in his throat, so he sees in vivid detail when Riddle meets his gaze and slowly shakes his head. Regulus's heart sinks, because he knows exactly what that means. He reads the message loud and clear. Riddle is unconvinced. Dorcas keeps glancing at the door. She doesn't mean to. She's trying her best to pay attention, because what Minerva is saying is no doubt important in some way or another. It's just, well, the mentors from the other districts that traveled in for the party are leaving now that it's over, which means Marlene will be boarding a train soon, and Dorcas didn't get to say goodbye last time. But she'd like to this time, at least. But work and debriefing with Minerva has to be more important. Of course, she'll get her final orders from Dumbledore once Minerva debriefs him, but Dorcas knows that they'll coincide with what Minerva already thinks. The victory tour has been absolute madness, particularly for the Order. Dorcas was their main connection to everything in real time, all the things going on behind the scenes, all the people she met along the way. She had to shut herself away and get in touch with Dumbledore with information far more often than she expected to, honestly. The steady rise of riots and rebellion is a good sign for the shifting tides of the war, and things are starting to pick up the pace. With her connection to the Order, they're able to actually stay updated on current events, as well as get involved in a proper time frame. Dorcas doesn't know much, but she does know that change is on the horizon. Minerva's main role tonight, other than playing her position as the next head game maker perfectly, was to scout out those she felt were prime candidates for recruitment. It will be Dorcas's job to recruit them in 6 months. Frank Longbottom is one that Minerva is sold on fully, so it will fall on Dorcas to get him on board. Emmeline Vance, she isn't sure about entirely, but it is a possibility. There's one sponsor as well, apparently a man named Huey Rutledge, who Minerva believes would help provide money for war efforts, if nothing else. Even war comes with a price. What about Sirius? Dorcas asks, ripping her gaze away from the door to focus on Minerva. Ah, Mr. Black, Minerva muses, lips twitching. He threatened me, you know. Dorcas can't stop herself from raising her eyebrows. Did he? Maybe I shouldn't be surprised. He's unfairly underestimated, honestly. More than just a pretty face, I can tell you that. His pretty face seems to be his weapon of choice, Minerva tells her. However, he adapts well and thinks on his feet. I can see that he's smarter than people give him credit for. He's a good candidate, Dorcas says softly, fighting the lump that forms in her throat. She struggles to smother the harsh impulse in her chest, not to do it, not to drag Sirius into this, even if he would be the perfect candidate for recruitment. The power he has over the Hallows alone. Minerva hums. He is, yes. However, Albus wouldn't clear it, and they'll all provide assistance to the war without being at the forefront of it just yet. It's for the best to leave them out of it for now. But not forever, Dorcas asks, holding her gaze. Dumbledore intends to bring them in at some point. I understand that you've come to care for them, Dorcas, I really do, Minerva says quietly, but there's no way of keeping them out of it at this point. Personally, I'd prefer to, because goodness knows they've been through enough already, but you know as well as I do that it's not so simple. You saw the riot in 5, the close call in 11. Regulus's message, hallow is hollow, will no doubt become the leading war cry when the battles truly begin. You know where you got that from, don't you? From you, yes, I know. Dorcas quirks a sad smile. Sirius, Regulus, and James have gone through too much. It's not wrong of me to say that being dragged into this is unfair to them. War is never fair, Minerva agrees, averting her gaze as her lips tip down. They're in this, Dorcas. Whether they mean to be or not, it's a fight they can't avoid. It's one we were depending on their involvement to win. We've known it from the moment they branded their love with defiance, all of them. Sirius loving them so much that he would manipulate Horace and risk his own life to see them live. Regulus loving them so much that he would die for them, proving so by going into that river. James loving them so much that he would threaten the Hallow when no one has ever dared to before. They're going to hate me when they find out, Dorcas croaks, her heart clenching, and Minerva has no words of comfort for her about this. Dorcas's eyes sink shut. They didn't sign up for a war, Minerva. Nevertheless, war is here, Minerva says softly. and they are not safe from its reach. How long do you think? Dorcas trails off and swallows, opening her eyes to scan Minerva's face. Minerva pauses, then carefully murmurs, I believe things will be mostly quiet for the next 6 months, but after that? The next games, Dorcas mumbles, eyebrows furrowed. Minerva says nothing more. What is it? What do you know? Nothing, Minerva replies simply. Dorcas frowns, because she knows Minerva a long time, long enough to know when she's not telling everything. But she also knows that Minerva only doesn't tell her things for a reason. Whatever she's hiding, there's a need for it. Dorcas knows that sometimes Minerva keeps things from her, just to try and keep her safe, because she doesn't want her to get hurt. Minerva has been in the Order for a long time, the very first hallow that ever joined, and she's been working her way up in levels of importance to the hallow for years now. The fact that she's worked her way up to being head game maker is a major turning point for the war, and Dorcas knows it. She's terrified because she doesn't want Minerva to get hurt either. But here they are, and this by choice, wishing the other wasn't, despite knowing how important it is for them to be. Caring about people in the midst of a war is always a dangerous game. Again, helplessly, Dorcas's gaze crawls to the door. Do you have somewhere to be? Minerva asks, because she's known Dorcas for years, and she's a frightfully observant woman at all times. I mean, yeah, sort of, Dorcas says weakly. Minerva peers at her for a long moment. Now? This late? And it can't wait? Dorcas grimaces slightly, feeling like a fucking teenager trying to hide a crush from her mother. The only event I can think of taking place that comes with something of a time limit tonight is the mentors leaving to travel back to their districts, Minerva says. Dorcas coughs and taps her fingernails to the table, the pointed tips clicking away. Damn Minerva for always picking up the details. Dorcas doesn't say anything. Minerva sighs. Which one? Marleneeee, Dorcas mumbles, her shoulders slumping. When she peeks over, Minerva has her lips pressed into a thin line, which means she's displeased. What? You don't approve? Would you say she's a good candidate to join the Order? Minerva asks simply. Dorcas's breath catches, her whole body going still as Minerva examines her, studying her closely. Dorcas balls her hand into a fist on the table and chokes out, Please don't, Minerva. Not her. Please. Dorcas, Minerva says softly. Don't suggest her to Dumbledore. Don't do this to me. Don't put this one on me to recruit her. Because Dorcas swallows, her eyes stinging. I won't do it. Not her. Minerva takes a deep breath, holds it for a beat, then slowly lets it out. Okay, Dorcas. I'll leave her name out of it. Thank you, Dorcas breathes out, her voice hoarse as her eyes slip shut, relief slamming into her all at once. Involvement isn't always a choice, Minerva murmurs, her gaze sad when Dorcas's eyes flutter open. You should know that better than anyone. You may wish to keep her safe, but if wishes were reality, we'd all be daydreaming. Then let me daydream, Dorcas whispers. Please. Do you love her? Minerva asks quietly. I don't know, Dorcas admits. I think I could. I think I almost do. Go, is Minerva's only response. She nods to the door, sitting back in her chair. Go be where you need to. I'll be waiting here when you get back. We'll continue this then. The war has waited this long, it can wait a little longer. Dorcas is out of her chair in an instant, needing no other prompting before she's out the door. All the way to the train, she thinks about how Minerva looks at Poppy sometimes, like it'll be the very last time. How she's strong enough to handle the risk of that, Dorcas doesn't know. Dorcas isn't that strong. And yet, she's a glutton for punishment, because she arrives at the train station and feels her breath punch out of her the moment she lays eyes on Marleneeee. She's in an Arctic blue suit that Dorcas recognizes, one she designed herself that Marleneeee must have gone through the trouble of buying from a store or online. The top buttons on her undershirt are undone, and her tie is draped open, giving her that lazy, leisurely, sexy look that genuinely makes Dorcas's head spin a little. Dorcas wants to peel her out of the suit. Oh, she's gorgeous. She's also quite blatantly drunk. Even from here, Dorcas can see it. She's draped all over Emmeline, laughing loudly, face flushed as she struggles to stay upright. Frank hovers beside her, like he might need to catch her if she falls over, but Emmeline seems to be doing most of the work in keeping her steady. In fact, Emmeline seems quite dedicated to keeping Marlene on her feet, hands on her hips, pressed right up against her. Well, Dorcas doesn't like that. Not one bit. Oh, she definitely doesn't fucking like that at all. Belatedly, she realizes that this is rather hypocritical of her, considering she has fucked Lily, and also she and Marlene are technically just friends. She has absolutely no right to be agitated by the sight of Marlene all over another woman. But does that stop her from grinding her teeth? No, it does not. Dorcas crosses her arms, cocks her hip up against the brick wall next to her, and waits. Marlene is drunk, that much is obvious, but perhaps the way Dorcas is drilling holes into the side of her head with her eyes breaks through anyway, because she eventually catches sight of her. As soon as she does, she gives a rather comical blink. "Dorcas?" Marlene calls, peeling away from Emmeline, who grimaces slightly when she stumbles. Emmeline and Frank instantly reach out like they're going to have to catch her, but she bats away their hands and makes her way unsteadily right over to Dorcas, her eyes glazed and wide. "Tipsy, are we?" Dorcas asks softly. Marlene clears her throat and reaches out to brace her hand on the brick wall beside her, getting her balance. She looks a little sheepish as she says, "Oh, just a bit." "I can see that," Dorcas tells her. "I just had a few drinks," Marlene mumbles, "just to make the night a bit more bearable. You know how it is. I'm, liked more by hallows when I'm drunk. I laugh easier." Dorcas is pretty sure her heart breaks. "Not all hallows. I like you when you're sober quite fine, actually." "Yeah, well, you can't offer me money to save the lives of my future tributes, so no offense, but it's not exactly your opinion of me I'm relying on," Marlene announces bluntly. "There's a fine line between a fun drunk and a messy drunk. At least a dumb, so keep that in mind," Dorcas says. She holds her hands up in surrender when Marlene squints at her. "I'm just saying, it's a fine line to walk, and I don't know anyone who has ever managed to." Marlene's lips press into a thin line. "Well, I can't fucking do it sober, Dorcas, alright? I hate them. When I'm sober, I can't, I don't know how to." "Marlene," Dorcas cuts in gently, "I'm not judging you. I don't want you to harm yourself for their sake, especially when it likely won't get you anywhere anyway." "I don't know what to do," Marlene confesses, blinking hard and fast. "I don't know how I'm supposed to keep doing this. I'm going to end up like so many of the other mentors, drunk, withering away, escaping this in the only way we can." Dorcas swallows thickly and reaches out to carefully grab Marlene's hand, squeezing it gently. I think you should stop drinking, Marlene, or try to. Maybe that's unfair of me to say, but I want you to be okay. I want you to be safe and healthy. Maybe you could talk to your mom. The way you talked about her, I don't doubt she would help you." She would," Marlene croaks. I don't. It's okay to need help," Dorcas whispers. Marlene sniffs quietly and looks away, her eyes sinking shut. She breathes for a moment, then gives a jerky nod before looking at Dorcas again. "I didn't expect you to come, to be here. I didn't want you to see me like this, not you." "Hey, it's all right," Dorcas assures her, squeezing her hand again. "Really, it is. I came to tell you goodbye because I didn't get to last time." "Will I see you again next year?" Marlene asks. "Are you going to be designing for Sirius again?" Dorcas nods. "Yes, I will. I'll be here, Marlene." "Could I convince you to ditch Sirius and design for me?" Marlene murmurs, swaying a little closer. "I'm positive he doesn't appreciate you the way I would." "Ah," Dorcas says, huffing out a weak laugh. "Sirius would kill me, I think." "I wouldn't let him, I promise," Marlene tells her, curling forward until she's settling her free hand on Dorcas's waist and leaning in to brush her lips along Dorcas's jaw. "Marlene," Dorcas whispers, her eyes fluttering shut as a sharp hook of yearning yanks at her until she's scared she's going to tilt right into Marlene and never resurface again. You smell like rose water, diluted sweetness, Marlene breathes out, inhaling sharply as she flexes her hand on Dorcass's hip and dips her head to kiss the side of her throat. That's you, diluted sweetness. Every time you muffle the force of it, hold it back, and I don't know why. You're drunk, Dorcas rasps, her mouth dry as she gently untangles their fingers to ease Marlene back. Marlene huffs. Yeah, but it's not like I want you any less when I'm sober. Well, you seem to want a lot of things when you're drunk, Dorcas mutters, her gaze flicking over Marlene's shoulder to land on Emmeline, who's chatting easily with Frank. What? Marlene follows her gaze, then turns back around and stares at her. Are you jealous? No, Dorcas mumbles. I thought we were friends, Marlene reminds her, sing-song, that last word draped in a derisive scoff. Dorcas purses her lips. We are, of course we are. Emmeline is my friend, Marlene muses. Lucky Emmeline, Dorcas snaps reflexively, then immediately squeezes her eyes shut with a grimace. Oh, for fuck's sake. Marlene has a smile tucked at the corner of her lips when Dorcas opens her eyes again. Yeah, but there's no need to be jealous. I don't have a friend like you, other than you, and that works for me. I'm all right with being friends like this for now, in the way no one else gets to be. Dorcas can't stop herself from tucking her lips in and dropping her gaze, pained. Ah, damn it. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Oh, Marlene whispers. Marlene, Dorcas says weakly, lifting her gaze and instantly regretting it when she sees how hurt Marlene looks. Shit, Marlene chokes out on a harsh laugh, blinking rapidly. She takes a solid step back and nods. Right, well, I don't even why I just assumed. Dorcas shakes her head. No, wait, it's not. And you were jealous, Marlene asks, incredulous. For fuck's sake, Dorcas, you do realize how ridiculous that is, yeah? I mean, I knew Hallows felt a strong sense of entitlement, but fuck, the double standard is a bit much. Just wait, no, it's not like that, Dorcas insists. I swear it's not, Marlene, okay? No, this is on me. This was a mistake. Of course you have other friends, Marlene grits out. It's Dorcas legitimately feels like she's about to let out a low whine. She's my friend, but we're not friends like you and I are. Marlene arches an eyebrow. So you two didn't fuck. I just misunderstood then. Waits, and Dorcas opens and closes her mouth. Marlene nods. Right, so actually it sounds like you two are friends the exact same way that we are, unless you want to elaborate on how it's different. Dorcas would love nothing more, except she can't, because then she would have to admit that what she feels for Marlene is a lot more than friendship, and she knows it. But to do that would be to put Marlene in danger. Dorcas has responsibilities and other things she has to let be a priority, none of which she is willing to drag Marlene into. She would be lying to Marlene in a worse way than she already is. Please elaborate on how it's different, Marlene croaks, holding her gaze, her voice small. I'm literally begging you to, because you didn't do anything wrong, and if you just give me something, anything, please. Dorcas wants to give her the world. Dorcas can only give her nothing. Marlene swallows harshly and blinks away visible tears, her jaw rolling as she turns her head and breathes in and out. She nods again, then reaches down to brush her fingers over the ring on her thumb, swiveling it once before pulling it off all the way, revealing the scar she doesn't like to look at. Meeting Dorcas's eyes, Marlene reaches out to cup her hand and drop the ring into her palm, curling her fingers over it before drawing her hands away. There's nothing wrong with you having friends, Dorcas. I just don't think I can be one of them. Not like this. Not when I... Marlene, Dorcas whispers, stricken, feeling like her chest is shrinking as Marlene cuts herself off and looks away. At least keep the ring. You don't like seeing that scar. It'll be easier to see than the reminder of you, Marlene says softly. The train blows the horn, calling them on board, and Marlene meets Dorcas's eyes again. It's not the goodbye she was expecting, but it's the goodbye she gets. Without another word, Marlene turns and stumbles back to her friends, boarding the train with their help without once looking back. Dorcas stands there, clutching the ring so tight that it hurts, daydreaming that she hadn't come at all. The last night in the Hallow is a bad one for Regulus, personally. After a day of being forced to socialize, he genuinely feels so drained that the thought of being around anyone else sounds like torture. So he sneaks away to the rooftop and stays there until the sun rises. As exhausted as he is, sleep remains out of reach. It's frustrating. Regulus always misses oblivion when he's away from it. The next morning, bright and early, they all gather themselves up and board the train to go home. Pandora sees them off, but Dorcas doesn't show. They didn't get to say goodbye to her, and Regulus wonders if he'll ever see her again. The train ride home is quicker without any of the stops. Sirius is in a sullen mood, moody and quiet, clearly upset about being away from Remus again. He's in his James-only setting, the one where the only person who seems to make him feel the least bit better is James. Regulus doesn't look too much into that, not anymore. It's not an unfair feeling to have, after all. Regulus can't blame Sirius for it, especially not when he understands it intimately himself, in a very different way. There's just something about James. Something so inherently comforting. Something so unshakably safe. When everyone else fails to be enough, James always is. Sometimes it breaks Regulus's heart that James can't see that. Regulus leaves Sirius and James alone, sitting off to the side and watching the world go by, quiet and alone in the way that doesn't make him feel so small. They're passing through a tunnel in District 5 when Regulus does a sharp double take, head whipping to the side. He would swear he just caught a glimpse of the words spray-painted on the inside of the tunnel. Maybe his mind is playing tricks on him, but it looked like it said, "Hallow is hollow." The train is going too fast for him to really be sure, so he settles back into his seat slowly, eyebrows furrowed. Against his will, he thinks about the way Riddle had made it very clear that Regulus failed to change his mind, or do a proper job of convincing him, as he was demanded to. Regulus doesn't believe there's actually anything he could have done to achieve that goal anyway, if he's honest. Riddle doesn't strike him as the type of man who's swayed once he has his mind set on something. But, well, maybe Regulus did a good enough job of convincing everyone else. James, too. They really did try, no matter how difficult it was. That has to count for something, right? Either way, Regulus is relieved when they make it back home. He doesn't know the future, doesn't know if the Hallow will demand more of him and James at some point. But he is sure that the chances of them fading into obscurity are higher now. There will be new tributes soon enough, and Sirius is the only one who will for sure have to return to the Hallow. James and Regulus might not have to, possibly for a long time. So, tea. Regulus thinks tea is a good place to start. He isn't sure what that means for them, honestly, but he is sure that he's not opposed to finding out. It's easier like this, without the weight of the Hallow's expectations bearing down on them. Whatever they do, however it goes, it'll be their choice. It won't be for show. It'll be theirs and only theirs. When the train slows to a stop, Regulus gets off first. James has been getting up at random intervals to walk when his leg demanded it, so he doesn't seem as uncomfortable as he did the last time he returned home from the Hallow. Regulus lingers out front, waiting in silence as Sirius gets off behind him, then helps James off right after. James is fine enough that he's not using his cane, just lazily swinging as they walk. He seems pleased that Regulus waited on them. A smile curves his mouth. And it's beautiful, so very beautiful. Regulus wants to feel that smile again on his own lips, and with no one around, eager to see just that, the desire feels more real somehow. It leaves him a little flustered, honestly. Regulus could have left and just went home, but instead he walks along with Sirius and James to the gate. They're all quiet, but it's not a heavy silence. It's light, actually, just an unspoken relief to be home with a past week behind them. When the gate opens, Effie and Monty are there. Regulus is secretly relieved because some part of him was afraid that they wouldn't be, that Riddle would have. And then Effie steps forward and softly says, Sirius, Regulus, I need a word with you both. And Regulus knows instantly that Riddle did, just not to them. Regulus's heart sinks, his stomach tangling into knots as he slowly looks over at Sirius, who is already staring right at him. They don't say anything. They don't have to. James is frozen in place, staring at Monty with wide eyes, and Monty has sorrow etched into the lines of his face. Without a word, Sirius and Regulus follow Effie off to the side, listening in silence as she explains that their parents had a tragic accident and are dead. Riddle didn't even grant the liberty of leaving bodies behind for them to bury.